This drama does not simply raise a death flag. It builds an entire radio tower out of them, then makes two teenagers trade cassette tapes beneath it until the audience has nowhere left to hide. The emotional manipulation is obvious, but the sincerity hits just as hard. At their teacher's funeral, a sudden downpour sends everyone running for cover. Everyone except Aki Hirose. She remains in the rain and finishes reading her memorial address as if abandoning those final words would be an insult to the dead. Sakataro Matsumoto has barely spoken to her before, but something about the sight stops him. He walks over and silently holds an umbrella above her head. At school, Sakataro is an average student with a talent for getting into trouble. Aki is the opposite. She earns excellent grades, excels at sports, and seems almost impossibly composed. A few days after the funeral, she finds Sakataro near the shore and thanks him for the umbrella. Then she hands him a series of ridiculous little gifts. First, a disgusting sea creature, then a piece of trick gum, and finally a tiny radio keychain. The first two are pranks, but the radio is real. Sakataro's younger sister recognizes it as a prize from a local radio program. Curious, he begins listening. The station is also giving away a portable cassette player, and Aki desperately wants one. Sakataro's friends, Ryunosuke Oki and Akiyoshi Nakagawa, notice that both boys keep staring at Aki during track practice. When Ryunosuke asks if Sakataro likes her, Sakataro denies it. Akiyoshi has a crush on Aki too, and Sakataro does not want to admit that he may already be competing with his friend. The boys collect money for Aki's birthday gift, but a cassette player is still beyond their budget. Sakataro decides to win the radio contest instead. The station wants a dramatic story from a listener, so he searches for inspiration. Their class is preparing Romeo and Juliet, with Aki expected to play Juliet. Then, while watching the rain, Sakataro invents a tragic romance about a healthy girl who suddenly develops leukemia. He submits it as if it were true. The story wins. Unfortunately, Aki hears the broadcast and immediately realizes he modeled the girl on her. She is furious, not because he used her name, but because he casually turned a deadly illness into a shortcut for sympathy. Real patients are fighting to live, while Sakataro has used their suffering to win a prize. Akiyoshi overhears their argument and finally understands that something has already formed between them. He is angry and embarrassed, but after cooling down, he gives the cassette player to Sakataro. He jokes that Aki must have terrible taste, then quietly steps aside. Sakataro leaves the player in Aki's locker with a recorded apology. He admits that the story was dishonest and invites her to meet him at the beach. Aki answers on another tape. She tells him that she began noticing him the moment he held that umbrella over her. By the time they meet again, the anger is gone. They promise to stay together and begin exchanging cassette messages, turning the recorder into a private world that belongs only to them. Their romance grows through ordinary details. Aki asks for croquette bread. Sakataro races to buy it, only to find her buried in preparations for the school festival. His friends tease him because he still has not kissed her. Aki takes him to a hill covered in flowers, a place she once visited alone. Now, she says, she can come with someone she loves. Sakataro leans closer, but Aki blocks him at the last second, leaving him both thrilled and defeated. Aki's father is strict, so the couple keeps their relationship secret. Her mother quietly covers for late phone calls, but her father eventually discovers the tapes and throws them away. At school, Sakataro expects to play Romeo opposite Aki. Instead, Aki chooses the class representative, hoping to stop rumors before they reach her family. Sakataro takes the rejection personally and sulks. Soon afterward, Aki asks him to carry her to his grandfather Kentaro's photography studio. There, they discover an old portrait of the woman Kentaro loved before the war. The old man explains that they were separated, and while he struggled to build a future for them, she became ill and was forced into another marriage. She later died. Kentaro has lived with one wish ever since. When his own time comes, he wants their ashes scattered together. Aki urges Sakataro to help him. Before they can act, Sakataro sees the class representative confess his feelings to Aki and force a kiss on her. Sakataro attacks him. Their teacher, Toshimi Yatabe, breaks up the fight, and Aki calls the incident a misunderstanding to prevent the situation from becoming worse. Sakataro feels betrayed, but Aki is simply trying to protect them both. That night, Sakataro helps his grandfather take a small amount of the dead woman's ashes from her grave. On the way home, he passes Aki's house. She climbs out of her window because she cannot bear leaving their argument unresolved. At the flower-covered hill, she explains that her father found the tapes and that secrecy was never about shame. She was afraid he would separate them. Sakataro finally understands and holds her. The reconciliation lasts only a moment. When Sakataro returns to the studio, he finds shattered glass on the floor and his grandfather motionless nearby. Kentaro has died before Sakataro could fulfill his final wish. At the funeral, everyone around Sakataro cries, but he feels numb. He places his grandfather's ashes beside those of the woman Kentaro never stopped loving, yet even then, the loss does not feel real. Back at school, Sakataro behaves as if nothing happened. He jokes, plays basketball, and becomes so cheerful that Aki grows frightened by the performance. At the photography studio, Aki discovers an album filled with pictures of Sakataro and his grandfather. The photographs reveal how close they were, even if Sakataro refuses to say that he is grieving. His parents consider selling the studio, but Sakataro's father changes his mind. He realizes that he spent years avoiding his own father and decides to quit his job and keep the shop alive. Sakataro searches for the right place to scatter the two sets of ashes. The sea feels wrong because the currents might separate them. A construction site feels even worse. Aki offers to help, but Sakataro pushes her away and lies that he lost the ashes at school. Later, during another heavy rain, Aki's mother tells him that Aki has gone out. He finds her digging through school trash, soaked and exhausted, still searching for something he never actually lost. Sakataro finally shows her the container in his pocket. Aki does not scold him. She is simply relieved the ashes are safe. Together, they go to the station where Kentaro and his first love once met. The wind carries the ashes away side by side. On the bicycle ride home, Sakataro suddenly remembers how his grandfather used to jump onto the back of the bike. For the first time since the death, the grief breaks through. He collapses against Aki, and she holds him until he can breathe again. As the next track meet approaches, Aki divides her time between studying and training. Her father doubts that a high school athlete has a serious future, so Aki makes a deal with him. If she wins, she can keep running. If she loses, she will quit. Sakataro begins training beside her, even though keeping pace leaves him barely able to stand. Tomoyo Ueda, Aki's teammate and friend, is in love with Ryunosuke. She plans to confess after inviting him to watch Aki race. But Ryunosuke has problems of his own. His girlfriend in Tokyo has stopped answering him, and he decides to leave town and confront her. Aki senses that he may not come back. Akiyoshi brings the friends more tapes, and they finally challenge Ryunosuke. They remind him that Tomoyo has been preparing breakfast for him and caring for him without ever asking for anything in return. Ryunosuke says little. Before leaving, he stops at the photography studio and stares at an old childhood picture, but nostalgia is not enough to change his mind. On the morning of the meet, Tomoyo finds his farewell letter. Devastated, she tells Aki that she never confessed. Aki refuses to let her lose the chance. She abandons her own preparations and runs with Tomoyo toward the station, while Sakataro and Akiyoshi follow. They arrive moments too late. The train is already moving, and Tomoyo can only cry as Ryunosuke disappears. Then they remember Aki's race. They sprint back, but the event has ended. Sakataro begs the officials to let her run, but the answer is no. Miss Yatabe stays behind, and Sakataro creates a private race instead. He acts as the timekeeper while Aki runs the track alone. It does not count in the official results, but the time is hers. For a brief moment, that is enough. Soon after, Aki develops a fever and is sent for medical tests. Ryunosuke returns to town after discovering that his girlfriend was seeing someone else. Tomoyo cannot easily forgive him. He is also ashamed that Aki missed her official race because everyone chased after him. Hoping to repair the damage, Ryunosuke proposes a camping trip to a nearby island. Akiyoshi cannot go because of a family commitment. Tomoyo refuses because she is still angry. Aki's fever has not fully passed, and her father orders her to stay home. The plan appears dead until Ryunosuke calls Sakataro before dawn. Aki is already with him. The two have decided to go anyway. Sakataro rushes to the dock, and the three teenagers board the boat. Ryunosuke intends to give the couple time alone. Once they reach the island, Aki runs ahead and explores with almost desperate excitement. Near an old oil tank, dizziness overtakes her, but she hides it. Later, The three splash through the water, and when the wind turns cold, Sakataro makes ginger tea for her. The simple kindness makes Aki cry. That night, Aki finds a suspicious package hidden beneath a pillow and wonders what Sakataro is planning. Their embarrassment makes the room unbearable, so they step outside. Fireflies glow in the darkness. Aki begins to cry again, and Sakataro gently puts an arm around her. Neither of them yet understands how precious this ordinary night will become. The next day, as they prepare to leave, Sakataro reaches out his hand. Aki tries to take it, but her body gives way. She collapses before their fingers meet. The hospital had already asked Aki to return for more tests before the island trip. She suspected something serious, but instead of telling anyone, she chose one more day beside the sea. Now, her parents arrive in panic. Her father punches Sakataro and orders him to stay away. The diagnosis is acute leukemia. The doctors offer treatment, but they cannot promise a cure. Aki's parents tell her that she only has anemia. Her father intercepts the cassette message she records for Sakataro, then calls Sakataro's family and warns them not to interfere. Sakataro's mother also scolds her son, believing that his presence will only create more trouble. Sakataro sits alone by the water, while Aki waits in the hospital and wonders why he never answers. When the new school term begins, Tomoyo learns that Aki has been hospitalized. Sakataro finally rides there, but Aki's father blocks him at the door and asks a brutal question. What can a teenage boy possibly do against leukemia? Sakataro has no answer. Sakataro becomes obsessed with the fictional radio story he wrote months earlier. He tries to rewrite its ending, as if changing a few sentences might undo the diagnosis. Nothing works. He shuts himself away until he finds the class's old Romeo and Juliet script. Then he realizes that he cannot cure Aki, but he can still give her something to look forward to. Sakataro gathers their classmates and turns the tragedy into a ridiculous comedy. When Miss Yatabe reports that Aki's condition has stabilized enough for visitors, he asks her father to let Aki watch the performance, even if Sakataro himself must remain outside. Her father agrees. The improvised show is chaotic, but it makes Aki laugh. Sakataro listens from beyond the door. Afterward, he gives Aki's father the photographs from the island. Every picture shows how alive and happy she was. Her father finally recognizes that Sakataro did not steal that happiness from her. He helped create it. He returns the confiscated cassette and allows Sakataro to visit. Sakataro prepares himself to act strong, but when Aki appears behind him, both of them begin to cry. They embrace, and the distance between them disappears. At her father's request, Sakataro still hides the diagnosis. He visits often, bringing the outside world into her room while pretending that recovery is certain. During a walk through the ward, Aki meets another patient who paints. She notices that they are taking the same medication. The patient openly mentions leukemia before Sakataro can stop him. From that moment, Aki begins testing the story her parents have given her. She watches her mother's reactions and studies every careful answer. On Sakataro's next visit, Aki pretends that she already knows the truth. Caught off guard, he confirms it. He asks her not to blame her parents. They lied because they were terrified and wanted to protect her. Aki apologizes for forcing the confession, while Sakataro apologizes to her father for breaking his promise. Her father accepts that the secret could not last forever. The following day, Sakataro stays away because he does not know how to face her. Then Aki receives permission for an overnight visit and appears behind him. On her tape, she makes one request. She does not want their limited time consumed by doctors and fear. She wants one normal, happy day. At school, Aki learns that another student has replaced her in an important role because of her health. Some classmates keep their distance, afraid of responsibility, and even irrationally afraid of illness itself. Sakataro sees how deeply this hurts her and pulls her out of the building. They eat takoyaki, wander through town, and return to the beach where their relationship began. Aki teases Sakataro because he has never clearly told her that he loves her. When he becomes too shy to answer, she leans closer and enjoys watching him panic. That evening, Sakataro brings Aki home for dinner. His parents are awkward and funny, but when Aki reveals her illness, they do not drown her in pity. They treat her as the same girl who walked through their door. Their warmth lets her relax. Back at the beach, Aki insists she will get better. She tells Sakataro not to spend every day worrying because this terrible period will eventually pass. Whether she believes those words or says them for his sake, they give her enough strength to return to the hospital and cooperate with treatment. Then, the patient who painted dies. Aki sees the artwork left behind and understands what it means. The fear she has been holding back finally overwhelms her. When Sakataro visits, she is gone from her room. He searches until he finds her standing in the sea, ready to let the water take her. Aki says she cannot bear watching healthy people continue with ordinary lives. She asks Sakataro to release her hand. He refuses. He reminds her of the girl who finished a memorial speech in pouring rain, the runner who completed her own race after the officials went home, and the person who once condemned him for treating leukemia like an easy ending. He asks her to try one more time. Aki reaches for him. Together, they walk out of the water. The next day, Aki notices how exhausted her father looks and worries about the cost of her treatment. Her mother assures her that the family will manage. Outside the room, Aki overhears her father telling Sakataro that the illness is incurable. He advises the boy to step away and live his own life before this loss destroys it too. Sakataro refuses. He tells Aki's father about Kentaro and the woman his grandfather loved. A cure arrived too late for them, but Sakataro cannot stop believing that another breakthrough might come in time for Aki. Hidden nearby, Aki hears every word. She knows the odds are against her, yet she continues smiling around everyone else because she cannot bear making them suffer. Only when she is alone does she admit how terrified she is of tomorrow. Sakataro returns to his grandfather's grave and begs for help. At school, preparations begin for the graduation trip. Aki briefly tries to participate, but she faints, and her hair begins falling out from treatment. She remains in the hospital while the others travel. Sakataro takes photographs everywhere he goes so Aki can experience the trip through him. The moment he returns, he rushes to the hospital. Her mother stops him. Aki's condition has worsened, and she no longer wants visitors. Instead, she sends him a tape. In the recording, Aki admits that she is exhausted. She does not want Sakataro to remember her only as a patient attached to an IV. She cannot bathe normally, wash her hair, or control what chemotherapy is doing to her body. She is preparing to leave him before he has to watch her disappear. Sakataro tries to enter, but her mother explains that Aki's refusal is not rejection. It is shame, fear, and the last piece of control she still has. Sakataro realizes that he has focused so completely on his own desperation that he has overlooked hers. Sakataro asks Miss Yatabe what he can do. She tells him that no teacher can answer that question for him. Ryunosuke asks Sakataro what he would want to say if tomorrow were his final day. Sakataro suddenly remembers Aki teasing him at the beach. He has asked her to fight for her life without ever giving her the words she most wanted to hear. Sakataro races back to the hospital with another tape. Through the recording, he tells Aki that he began loving her after the funeral, that every jealous argument and every moment beside her mattered, and that even when he dragged her out of the sea, his fear came from how much he loved her. Aki listens from her room and cries. She asks whether he can still stay when she feels she has nothing left to give. Sakataro answers by bringing a marriage registration form. They fill in their names and adjust their ages as if paperwork could force the future to cooperate. Miss Yatabe points out that the forged application has no legal force. For a moment, everyone laughs. When Aki's father enters, Sakataro panics and runs. Aki dismisses the form as a joke, then quietly says that she may never have the chance to marry. Her father looks at the paper and finally understands what the fantasy means to her. Their friends decide to give the couple a ceremony that does not need government approval. Tomoyo borrows her mother's wedding clothes. Aki's father unexpectedly agrees after the doctor warns him that time is running short. If his daughter has one more dream, he will not be the person who takes it away. On the day of the ceremony, Aki puts on the wedding dress. Sakataro wishes the situation could be reversed, that he could carry the illness for her and let her walk into an ordinary future. The instant he sees her, he excuses himself to wash his face, then sobs where she cannot see him. Their parents, teacher, and classmates gather for a wedding photograph. There is no legal marriage, but the affection surrounding them is real. Aki catches the bouquet and accepts everyone's blessings while struggling to hold back tears. She knows this may be the last time she stands in sunlight with all the people she loves. Afterward, Sakataro photographs the sky every day. When Aki becomes too weak for visits, they communicate through tapes and pictures. The helplessness nearly breaks him. Eventually, her mother allows him into the room but warns him to prepare himself. Aki can barely stand. Still, she forces herself upright, removes her cap, and shows him the hair she has lost. Then she smiles, determined not to let the illness take her dignity. Sakataro cannot stop crying. A protective barrier separates them, so they press close and kiss through it. Her father tells Sakataro that Aki's body has reached its limit. The doctors are pausing the medication because the treatment itself is now causing unbearable damage. That night, Sakataro falls while listening to one of her tapes. He wishes the disease had chosen him instead. Then he remembers Aki's fascination with Uluru in Australia, the place she imagines beneath the bluest sky in the world. Sakataro proposes that they go there together. For the first time in days, Aki's face fills with hope. Sakataro begins raising money in secret. He understands that taking Aki out of the hospital could endanger her and implicate everyone who helps them, but the alternative is watching her final wish disappear. Aki's father discovers the plan and gives him his savings. The man who once punched Sakataro now trusts him with his daughter's last journey. Sakataro buys the tickets. Aki understands that the trip may be one way. She shares a final meal with her parents and leaves recorded messages for the people she loves. The doctor calls the plan reckless, almost suicidal, but her parents know that keeping Aki alive for a few more days is not the same as allowing her to live. Outside the hospital, Aki suddenly pushes Sakataro away from the taxi. She does not want him blamed if she dies, so she tries to continue alone. Sakataro follows her to the station and sits beside her. When Aki asks what he will do if she dies along the way, he promises to carry her home himself. Rain falls around them, echoing the day he first held an umbrella over her. On the train, Aki rests against Sakataro and says that perhaps she was born only to wait for him. She asks him to find her again in another life. He asks her to move slowly, one step at a time, because he is not ready for the journey to end. At the airport, Aki collapses. Even then, she insists on reaching the plane. She tries to stand, falls again, and sees the departure gate slipping out of reach. In her fading consciousness, the terminal becomes the border of another world. Aki says goodbye and closes her eyes. Sakataro cries out and holds her. He keeps the promise he made at the station, carrying her back with his own arms. He wants to continue to Uluru with her remains, but regulations make it impossible. Aki returns home instead. When Sakataro sees her empty hospital room, the reality finally crushes him. He locks himself away and discovers that closing his eyes only makes her image clearer. He cannot attend the funeral. In the rain, he screams at a world that allowed Aki to fight so hard and still lose. Aki's father finds the album filled with Sakataro's photographs of the sky. He asks the boy to travel with the family and scatter Aki's ashes at Uluru. Sakataro refuses at first because going there without her feels like admitting she is gone. His own father condemns him for abandoning the responsibility Aki left behind. Then Sakataro listens to her tapes again. Her voice gives him the courage he no longer has on his own. Sakataro travels to Australia with Aki's parents. Beneath the enormous blue sky, they release her ashes over the red earth. Sakataro keeps a small portion. He has completed the journey, but he is not yet able to surrender the last physical piece of her. 17 years pass. Adult Sakataro builds a career in medicine, hoping work will fill the silence Aki left behind. It never does. He continues dreaming of her and lives as though part of him died at the airport. One day, Miss Yatabe sends him a letter. Their old high school is about to be demolished, and she invites former students back for one final visit. Drawn by memories he has avoided for nearly 2 decades, Sakataro returns to his hometown. There, he meets Aki's father. Instead of accusing him, the older man says that Sakataro did everything a frightened teenager could have done. He must stop turning every regret into evidence of personal failure. Then he gives Sakataro the old photo album. Each picture brings back a different piece of Aki. The athlete running toward a future she believed was waiting, the girl laughing on the island, the patient who still found the strength to wear a wedding dress, and the young woman who wanted to see the bluest sky in the world. The memories still hurt, but for the first time, Sakataro understands that releasing his guilt does not mean abandoning her. Sakataro goes to the track where Aki once ran. Taking the final ashes from their container, he opens his hand and lets the wind carry them away. Aki is no longer trapped in a bottle, and Sakataro is no longer trapped in the moment she died. Their love ended in tragedy, but Aki's life was never just an illness. She was stubborn, playful, frightened, brave, and fully alive until the end. Sakataro cannot change what happened. He can only accept that loving her also means returning to the world she had to leave. That's all for today's drama recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share. I'll see you in the next one.